everybody. Welcome to the Jerusalem Connection Red Alert Report. I am your host, Amy Zewe. Today we have joining us a remarkable young woman. Her name is Yael Shavelson. She is a Middle East policy master's student at Pepperdine University in Washington, D.C., and she is also an intern at the Coalition of Catholics Against Anti-Semitism. Before that, she had a fellowship at the Hezbollah Fellowship, and she was a marketing intern for the Heritage Foundation. She even studied abroad in Europe during her undergraduate years. Yael, thank you for joining us. We are really excited to meet you and learn from you, as you have some unique experiences that I think our audience really needs to know about so that we can continue to be a comfort and an aid to our fellow Jewish citizens, especially our young people, and learn about the hope and the light that you see as you're endeavoring upon your continuing studies and your potential career path. So welcome to the program, and tell us a little bit about yourself so we can get to know you.
First, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. So I had quite an experience in college. I grew up in a very religious community. I'd never had any real problems with anti-Semitism, which was, of course, such a blessing. But it does mean that I was quite shocked when I went to college. I went to a school in rural Ohio, and there was really not a lot of Jewish life. There were a few kind of token Jews or Jews by name only. But in terms of actual practicing Jews or actual Jews who believed in the importance of the state of Israel or just the importance of having a Jewish state or standing up for Jewish pride, or anything really rooted in biblical values, we didn't have a lot of that. We had a small Hillel, which is an organization that brings Jews together across college campuses. But I chuckle when I say this because it was a kind of desolate building next to the auto shop, barely ever operational. They would light candles every Friday night or so, but it didn't even matter what time Shabbat starts. For anyone who knows a little bit about Shabbat, it tends to start at sunset and then end an hour later the next day, so it's 25 hours long. But it didn't matter when it started, they would light at 5 anyway. So I'm not particularly observant, but this just goes to show how Judaism was taken out of the Jewish Hillel. When I went to school, I was so excited at the beginning. We didn't have a rabbi. We had the Jewish chaplain, which I actually hadn't even heard the term before. We're used to having rabbis. But I asked, can we start a Jewish club, an Israel club? We can make challah. We can teach about Israel. We had such a huge JP Students for Justice in Palestine club. And I thought, okay, this is great. We'll have an Israel club. We don't have anything like that. We don't have any courses on that. It'll be so exciting. I don't know a ton about it, but I can teach, I can learn. And I still remember the chaplain said, we can't have something like that affiliated with the Hillel because we want to be open to everyone. And that really stuck with me. This was far before October 7th. We'll get to that later. But this is such a small, kind of humble example compared to what's to come. But it just goes to show that the Hillel, we didn't have a Chabad, we didn't have anything else. The one place that was supposed to be for Jews to come together, learn about their heritage, eat amazing food. Jewish food really is amazing. To do all these things together, we couldn't because it had to be open to everyone. And yeah, that's kind of what my experience was like pre-October
Wow.
7th.
Wow. So that just goes to show you that there was even this assumption that somehow learning about Israel and celebrating its culture and its Judaic practices was somehow inherently exclusionary, which it isn't, right? I mean, if you were doing less speeches or talks or doing an actual Shabbat properly, that wouldn't be excluded to Jews only. That would actually be open to anybody who wanted to learn, I'm assuming, right? You weren't trying to create a Jews only group. It was just a group that was focusing on that topic as a learning experience for everybody, but it was just shut down. And that's really just probably very heartbreaking. You were a freshman at this point. So, we're really sorry that happened to you and that you had to endure that. Now, October 7th happened about halfway through your undergraduate program or so. And tell us a little bit about about that. So where were you? What was going on when October 7th happened? That's kind of a question that I ask a lot of people, whether they're Israelis or whether they're Jewish or Christian in America, but have strong ties to the community. It's one of those questions that the older generation always asks each other, where were you 9/11? The generation before that, it's like, where were you at the Kennedy assassination? So it's that kind of a question. Tell us about what you were doing and where you were when October 7 happened. How'd you learn about it? What was your reaction, and what did you observe around you maybe that day or the days following?
Yes, both a blessing and a curse. I was not actually on campus when October 7th happened, which is great because of the environment. However, I was in England, which was not much better when that big protest happened in London. Yeah, so right after October 7th, maybe 8, 9, like right after October 7th, my friend or another participant in my study abroad program and we went abroad. We took a little trip together to Switzerland and France. And she was Jewish as well, in a sense. And we were in Geneva, so we were right near France. And then we took a bus to Chamonix, France, which was only about an hour. We had our passports, but they actually did not check the passports. And so my friend and I, we go to Mont Blanc, which is the mountain from Frankenstein, for anyone who knows that. It's pretty cool. And we're looking out at the mountains and it's beautiful and I'm just appreciating the view. And my friend turns to me and she says, she, because we just came off of the bus where they didn't check our passports going from one country to another, she says, just like gender, borders are a social construct. They shouldn't exist. And I'm just looking at these beautiful mountains and contrasting that with her words, and I just look at her and I say, tell that to the people of Kfar Aza. And then she tries to walk it back a little. Oh, that's not what I meant, but it still sticks with me. She again, I say in a sense, she was Jewish by ethnicity. I mean, if she's even saying that, and this was maybe 2-3 days after the most horrific attack on Jews since the Holocaust, when you have kids shot in front of their parents, babies burnt in ovens in front of their parents. I mean, people's breasts cut off so they could play catch with them. I'll skip the gory details. We all know it. Borders are a social construct. Oh, I'm sure it would have been even better without the borders. It's so hard to even verbalize. I mean, when you have someone who reacts like this, like, what do you even say? Clearly logic isn't going to work. Clearly emotions aren't going to work. Logic and emotions, what else is there? But yeah, so that's kind of where I was exactly when October 7th hit. Once I went back to campus, I had my own battles to fight, but this really hit me because one, I wasn't even on campus, and it goes to show how bad it was off campus in another country. But also, this girl, she was ethnically Jewish. This was maybe 2 days post October 7th, and people have way crazier, way worse stories. And yeah, this is just mine.
So, I mean, you're dealing with sort of the collective narrative or mindset that the non-Jewish community is sort of grown up with, right? There's just been a constant drumbeat against Israel in a lot of curriculum and K-12 curriculum and undergraduate curriculum and grad schools. And the Jewish population in America is just probably only about 2%, right? So it really is on us, the Christians and others, not just Christians, but anybody who looks at logic and human rights and civil rights and just general biblical values to say, this isn't how we should treat any of our citizens, right? But it's becoming accepted. So you have to deal with that from the non-Jewish community in their ignorance, or maybe it's out of actual an actual hate, but a lot of it is probably ignorance and just learning the wrong narrative and incorrect narrative. But now you're dealing with a fellow Jewish, colleague, friend, co-ed. So that's got to really be heartbreaking for you. And how do you respond? You're not going to change that person's mind. The only thing that maybe would jar some sense into them, any of them, would probably be to go visit and talk to the people that all this happened to on the 7th. So you get through your year in Europe. I'm sure Europe had its own atmosphere, wherever you were in Europe, whether it was the UK and you traveled elsewhere. there was something happened. We all acknowledged that something happened on October 8th, later in the day, before Israel even counted its dead or, started the plans for a countermeasure, that all of a sudden the vitriol against Israel went from being an underlying sentiment to being totally acceptable and fashionable, even to speak out against, right? And that includes all the lies. So you get through your year abroad, and I hope it was wonderful as far as your places you get to visit and the things you learned in your classes that you took, and you get back to campus for your senior year. Now we're post October 7th. How did that year differ from the first 2 years you were on campus?
Yeah, so again, with the example of the Hillel and the Israel Club that I wanted to start, these were me taking proactive action or trying to. But when I just, stood down, stayed quiet, which is hard for me, but when I did that, it was okay. I mean, in terms of the anti-Semitism, it wasn't strong unless I provoked it in the "can I start an Israel Club" kind of way. Yeah, there was nothing overt. Again, I am being a bit generous. I mean, we did have the Students for Justice in Palestine Club posted people like Miko Pilet or something, who I don't want to say the wrong stuff. But, for anyone who doesn't know who that is, I would look him up. And this wasn't just the Students for Justice in Palestine. It was a joint organization between maybe that and the history department or the English department.
Okay,
So
so
this
it
was
had
my
faculty or institutional backing behind it. Yeah, it
yeah.
wasn't just a student-led initiative.
Yeah, exactly. But no, that was nothing. And okay, so then I come back after October 7th, and wow, I don't even know where to start. First of all, the just to go back to the Hillel while we're continuing with that story, they didn't acknowledge October 7th. So I wasn't on campus. So maybe they said something in person, but on their Instagram, on their social media accounts, they never acknowledged it, which is wow. They never acknowledged October 7th until the 1 year anniversary, when they posted something on their Instagram that they were going to have a family Shabbat where first of all, a family Shabbat without acknowledging October 7th, a family Shabbat. Wow. A family Shabbat where anyone can come and read a poem they've written or say anything they want to say about how they feel about anything. Very broad. Okay, cool. I wasn't sure exactly what to do when I came back. I knew that it wouldn't be great on campus, and I was struggling with myself. Do I wear my Star of David necklace? Everyone can see it's very, very small, often hidden behind a shirt. It's very small. I've been wearing it every day since my bat mitzvah, which is a Jewish woman's coming of age. And I had to say, do I wear it? And I said, I'm gonna wear it. I'm gonna wear it. And it's this tiny necklace. I have my name, Yael, clearly Jewish. But aside from that, I didn't do anything. I didn't make waves. And again, I love debating religion, politics, but you have to be safe. And I'd one more year to get through it, and then I would get out of there. It didn't matter that I didn't do anything. I mean, on the anniversary of October 7th, when the Hillel did nothing, we had the SJP, the Students for Justice in Palestine Club. They sure did something. They had a vigil for all the Palestinians slaughtered by the IDF, where you had the token Jews. Actually, I have a recording of this of one of the Jews saying, "When are we going to pressure Israel to release their hostages too?" And then they stormed the library. This was on
Wow.
the anniversary of October 7th, when the Hillel did nothing. SGP had all the Jews at that point. And yeah, I did try to do little things that wouldn't get me hurt. I was too worried to do this at school, but I printed out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of copies of hostage posters at my house. Really used up the printer ink for that, and brought them back to campus. Would have been really awkward if that had been stopped at security with my backpack of people's faces. And I just posted them all around campus. But it wasn't that I could just post them whenever, and then people, if they were going to take them down, they'd have to do it in the dead of night because of the shame. I had to put them up in the dead of night. I had to put them up when no one was looking, and not for shame at all, for safety. But people would take them down within seconds, and they would do it together. They would rip it down together with surrounded by people, why I would put them up when no one was around. No reason for them to hide. I mean, of course you're going to take down these horrible posters of innocent 5-year-old children. It reminds me of there was this one time where, and again, another instance that particularly stuck with me was at some point enough was enough. Okay, they're going to rip down the paper posters. Okay. My brother worked at this really consulate in New York, and he had these sticker magnets of the people who were taken, and he gave me 2 of the Bebos children. For anyone who knows the story, it's a horrific story. These children, something like a couple months old and 4 years old, were taken. Their parents were taken, and while the father was, thank God, released after countless days, over 400, I believe, in harrowing conditions, his entire family was slaughtered. I won't go into the details, but we didn't know at that point if they were still alive. And I had this sticker of Ariel Bebos, who was 4 going on 5 years old at the time, or so we hoped. And I remember I got to class a little early, and I put up the sticker in the hallway, and I went to use the restroom. I came back out 2 minutes later, and I saw someone taking it down, and it was a professor. And he wasn't just taking it down. He had already finished, for the most part, taking it down at that point, but it was a sticker, so it was hard to completely get off. So there were a few remnants of it, but it wasn't enough for him. So he was scrubbing it down so that no trace of Ariel Bebos remained on campus. And I don't care what side you're on. I mean, sure I care, but in this instance, I don't care what side you're on. This is take out all politics, all religion, take out everything. This is just a 4-year-old child who was kidnapped, who might be alive, and we want to bring him home.
Exactly.
But that wasn't.
So I'm really concerned, though, that just wearing your Magen David necklace was something that made you be concerned for your safety, like your physical safety, or even just being like harassed or, just be the target of hostility verbally on a college campus, where the idea of having a healthy exchange of ideas, you said you like to debate ideas. Obviously, when you were probably in high school, you were engaged in learning how to do that, how to do debate and how to stick to facts and those kinds of things. And now you're at a college where you're not even allowed to express what everybody else can express, right? A Christian can wear their cross, and a Muslim girl could wear her hijab. Whatever the religion is that might have some outward expression, nobody would think twice to not only wear it, but to feel safe walking around at a campus in America and not having any backlash. Maybe you'd get some one-off crazy ignorant student say something nasty, but nothing institutional for sure, and nothing that you would feel would then be ignored. I mean, that school, I don't know if you had any opportunity to bring any incident or fear to the leadership of the school or the authorities of the school, but I feel like if you did, maybe nothing would take place. But if you were a Black student that had, somebody play a sick joke of putting a noose on your doorknob or something sick like this, it would just be totally addressed straight away and intolerable on campus. But it seems like when equivalent things happen to students, even if it's not a physical attack, it's somewhat ignored. Did you have any reason or opportunity to bring any of your concerns to the leadership, or did you just decide that wasn't going to get you anywhere?
I mean, well, for taking posters down or the lack of anything from the Hillel, I knew there would be no point in. They wouldn't do anything if I tell them. I mean, if a professor's taking the posters down,
Well,
if the
exactly.
Jewish chaplain is saying you can't do anything regarding Israel, then, I mean, if anything, I'd say go talk to the chaplain, go to who was the professor. But there was one time where I actually did experience something more personal, and I, in a way, brought that up later on. But this was, everything else I'd say was a little more removed from me. Not in the sense that didn't impact me, but in the sense that it wasn't necessarily a personal attack against me. I did have one personal attack against me in my senior year, post October 7th. So I was deciding where to live on campus, and one of my friends, she asked if I'd like to live with her, to room with her in an apartment that had I believe 4 or so other people aside from the two of us. I didn't know any of them, but I knew I'd be rooming with her, and she wanted a roommate, and I needed a place to live. So I said yes. I didn't know anything about the other roommates, but I did look them up as girls tend to do. And I saw that 3 out of 4 of them were in SJP, Students for Justice in Palestine. But don't worry, the other one was not my saving grace, because the other one posted things like this on her Instagram every day, knowing your spirit is sick. And if you want your own state so bad, split Germany in half, because that worked out so well the first time. And yeah, she posted these under reflections. So those are her reflections. So those were the other roommates. Yeah, kind of my fault in the sense that I needed a place to live. I didn't have to live there. But okay, I had my name, I had my tiny necklace, but I didn't, and again, this isn't like me, I love debating, but I didn't make any waves. 1 year, a little less than 1 year left, just stick it through. So they knew my name was Yael, and maybe they saw my tiny necklace, probably not. But that was it. I didn't do anything. Even when I talked to my family on the phone about Israel or something, I would whisper in my room. I mean, I was hiding from these people, which I hated. But again, just get through the year. And I thought I could without anything happening, but that's unfortunately not what happened. I remember one day I was walking home from class and the roommate said, okay, house meeting now. And they'd never been kind to me, always snubbing me. And I went out of my way to be a little nice, but like a little extra nice, but nothing I couldn't handle. But I remember I got this weird feeling in my gut, like the meeting was going to be about me. And I remember I called my mother and I said, I think this is going to be about me, but I'm sure I'm wrong. I'm sure I'm paranoid. I'm sure I'm just being a girl. Of course I think it's about me. Everything's about me. But I'm sure it's not actually going to be about me. I feel like it, but no, just overthinking. And then I went into the meeting, and at that point, my friend had actually already moved out. So it's just the four other students and myself, and we sat down, and there was a minute of complete silence. I didn't say anything. I didn't start the meeting. It's kind of awkward, but it's always awkward around them. There's a minute of silence, and then one of them looked at me and said, oh. And then it started. They spent the next hour just ripping into me, just hurling baseless accusations at me for everything from my existence to things I've never done. And I just sat there stunned. I'd never had this happen. Sure, you have fights with your siblings and stuff, but these people didn't know me from Adam. I mean, I was just sitting there. What was happening? And it was just the 4 of them and myself. So they just took turns. They just took turns ripping into me. And I remember I'm not a big crier, but my eyes started to water, and I realized I'm gonna cry, and I can't cry in front of them. And I was blinking back tears. It's been an hour, and I looked at them and I said, I'm sorry, I have to go. I'm starting to cry. I'm sorry. I hated that I was apologizing, but that's what came out. Looked at each other and they smiled. I ran out, wasn't wearing shoes. It was the bitter freezing cold in the Midwest, possibly snowing. I don't even remember, but it was very, very cold. Had no shoes on and just was outside crying for 2 hours or so. And I moved into emergency housing the next day, and I was worried from that point on. Well, first I thought, okay, they're gonna text me. I mean, they're gonna say, we apologize, or they're gonna say something, even if it's not nice. They're gonna say something. I mean, I just moved out after they won't say something because of how they acted. I'm sure they won't, but they're going to. I mean, they're human. They have to. I guess not quite human enough for that, because they never reached out. I even had a class with one of them, which is so much fun. They never reached out. I was pretty nervous after that. I tried to not let it get to me, but I remember, I think 3 of them were Asian. One of them was Black, and from a distance, people look similar. And I remember anytime I saw someone Asian on campus, 3 of them had been Asian, and anytime I saw someone on campus from a distance, my heart would pound a bit. Is it them? And the next summer, I went to work at the Heritage Foundation in DC, and it's still anytime I saw someone Asian from a distance, obviously it wasn't them. They didn't follow me. They're not in DC. But I was. It's true. Thankfully, I'm over that. That PTSD, thank God, did not last long. If that's what it was. Yeah, this is nothing. Sure, what I experienced was horrible, and I hated it, and it shouldn't happen to anyone. And I hope it never happens to anyone again. I mean, compared to what's happened to other Jewish students, physical safety, actually being attacked, hurt, killed. You have the instance where you had I believe the elderly Holocaust survivor marching in Colorado to free the hostages, and then someone burned her alive. You had in Bondi Beach when a Holocaust survivor was lying on his wife to protect her from the shooting, and he was killed. This is nothing, but at the same time, it's not nothing, and none of these things should be discounted. I discount it in the sense that people had it so much worse, and I'm so blessed that it wasn't worse. However, no one should have to deal with this at all. I mean, why is this a
Exactly.
thing? Why are people on college campuses? Again, I didn't do anything. My name's Yael, sue me. But no, it didn't matter that didn't do anything because I was Jewish, and that was.
Well, it's so disturbing because I think that professor that scraped the sticker off and your roommates who thought it was almost an entertainment factor to berate you and drive you out. I feel like they were taking their marching orders or their liberty to do this unaffected from those big name schools, your Harvard, your MIT. I think it was at DePaul, students were actually assaulted, where they were in the hospital, assaulted. They learned that it was okay to do this and nothing bad would come of it. In fact, some of them probably even think they're the good person for making, the Jew, whether they're Israeli or not, or even support Israel in any way, or what the IDF was doing after the 7th. It was just an example of bigotry and discrimination and prejudice that for a generation we've tried to drum out of our students successfully when it comes to other minorities, but somehow, and this is where I think it's a spiritual thing, somehow the 2% in America and then half of all Jews on the planet live in Israel. It's not just focused on Jews anymore, but it's also the vilification is focused on Israel. And to me, it's heartbreaking. And because we're millions of Christians who, if they're reading their Bible in earnest and not, falling to false theologies and allegorizing everything, it is our job to be the front line of defense. And I am sad that there wasn't one ally for you on that campus, Christian or non-Christian, just somebody that had a basic sense of human rights and dignity and a basic sense of what it means to be tolerant and accepting, which we know the Jewish community is, and Israel as a nation is the most tolerant and accepting peoples in the Middle East. And yet you're getting the brunt of all that hate. And so I really feel terrible of those experiences for you. And I feel shame that there weren't Christians in the community who maybe didn't know your story specifically, because I'm sure you weren't on Instagram posting it, but just sort of aware of this campus and their community, especially the Hillel chaplain or whatever you might have called him, if he was any kind of clergy at all in a religious sense. So
Yeah, so
you
sorry.
you
There was no support there, but I do want to stand up for the Christian community for a moment. There was one student I didn't meet them until the end of my senior year, but there was one student, not Jewish, but a Christian student, politically conservative, and a professor linked us up. I wanted to meet someone, like you said, some ally, and
sure.
so she was Christian. We met we met in the deli, and we were whispering. She kept like, wait, make sure to lower your, because we were surrounded by people. She's like, I don't, like, I work with that person on the paper. So we were whispering about, because she was Christian, I'm Jewish, and we're both politically conservative. We're both Zionist, pro-Israel, and we had to. And then when I get passionate about something, I tend to talk a little louder. So then eventually, when we were done eating, she's like, well, let's walk outside. I mean, don't worry, we still couldn't talk that loud, even outside. But we were able to walk a little and talk a little more. So it was wonderful to find that one person. But even that you had to have that level of fear. It was certainly not shame. I am not ashamed at all of my Judaism or my beliefs, and I don't believe she was ashamed at all of her Christianity or her beliefs. But there's that fear and that awkwardness. Like, she's like, yeah, that person works with me on the paper. I don't want anyone to know. So even like when we found each other, you couldn't really do anything with that. It was
Right.
nice to have knowledge that there was someone else out there. We couldn't start a club or do something. We would need more manpower.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
So even the Christian and the Jew hiding, like, that takes me back. So there was someone, I just wanted to point that out, like,
I'm glad.
there weren't no Christians who were supportive of Israel and the Jewish state, Judaism, but it was definitely very few and far between.
That's sad, though. I mean, I'm glad you found the one person you had some. Sorry it took to the fourth year to find her, him or her. But also, it really is a mandate for us to equip our college age students, our up and coming young adults, to be able to lock arms with their Jewish co-eds and brothers and sisters, and as as possible, even engage community members, their elders, to get that, as you say, manpower to say, no, we are going to go to the administration and we are going to start this club where we discuss this issue or that issue in a dignified academic sense, right? It doesn't even have to be religious, but that idea of let's look at history in a truthful way, or let's look what's going on in a truthful way, and having some guest speakers perhaps that are credible and upstanding that could come educate. So hopefully that momentum based on your story, I hope that encourages our listeners and anybody who's in college or high school or has children or grandchildren, that you encourage them and equip them and support them. It's important for the older adults to support those younger ones and encourage them that will be there for you and help. So you graduate and you're done with that. And that's when you come to DC. Just give us your experience then as you come to DC and you're opened up to a world of not just this one group think that was in that college community, but now there's still those people here in DC, believe me. But and but the idea of now you have a broader access to folks from a variety of religions, a variety of political ideologies, and open to maybe a more civilized debate, and how that led you to the program you decided to do and engage with at Pepperdine.
Yeah, so I'm getting my master's in Middle East policy studies at Pepperdine, and I honestly hadn't even really been considering grad school before then. I mean, you had my experience on college, and I was just ready to dive into the workforce. But it's a joint program between Pepperdine, which is a Christian college, and the Washington Institute for Near East Policy, which is very Zionistic. And I mean, I became last couple years so passionate about Middle East policy, but it's hard to find a program that's that niche, that's so specific to that, let alone one where they share the values and beliefs that I do. Not that they need to, but at least be open to dialogue. And when I found this program, actually a former boss recommended it to me. I thought, well, Christian, Zionist, I mean, I might as well apply. It sounds great. It's the inaugural cohort. They're paying. Shout out to them. Full scholarship for the inaugural
Nice,
cohort. And
nice.
I might as well apply. It sounds really great. And it was a tough decision, job, money, this amazing program. But I am really grateful I chose the program. Yeah, you mentioned, people across the spectrum. We have people across the political spectrum, conservative, moderate, independent, libertarian, very left wing, but so open to dialogue. And I love that. I don't need people to all be cookie cutter conservative. I don't need people to all be like me. I have friends who are on the left, but I love them. We could have 2-3 hour conversations. I'm just dissecting transgenders and dissecting free speech. We know neither of us will likely change the other person's mind, but it's the dialogue, it's the conversation, the connection over it. And it's wonderful we get
And
to
you
have
feel
that.
safe, and you feel safe in that dialogue. You feel that you can expose your thoughts and your ideas without getting hostility in return, whether it's verbal or, God forbid, physical.
Yeah, without getting hostility and even without hurting their feelings. They understand that me disagreeing with them does not mean an attack on them, and them disagreeing with me is not an ad hominem attack either. It's you disagree about things, but it doesn't mean either one of you is evil, and it doesn't mean either one of you is stupid, which is something sadly people seem to have forgotten. And yeah, so across the political spectrum, but for the most part pro-Israel, or at the very least, no one was openly anti-Israel, or no one is openly anti-Israel, but people across religions, a lot of Christians, Protestants, Catholics, Jews, even one Muslim student. Most of us from the US, but one person from Afghanistan, one person from Aruba. You really have
Wow.
so many different backgrounds, and then different ages. I went in right after college, so just I'm 23 now. I was 22 when I started. But yeah, people going from 22 to the oldest person at the start of the program was about 43 years old, and had so much experience. And actually, that was Simone, who is actually my boss at the Coalition for Catholics Against Anti-Semitism. where I'm the junior research fellow. So we connected through the program that we both do. And even though we're coming from completely different stages of life, she's a devout Catholic, I am a proud Jew. We completely different stages of life, but we bonded. We're great friends now, and now I work for this amazing organization that she's running. And yeah, I wouldn't have met her without Pepperdine. They
That's
didn't
wonderful.
connect us in terms of getting the job, but she asked me, would you like to do this work for me? And I said I'd love to. It's through CCAA, through the Coalition of Catholics Against Anti-Semitism, that I've had the opportunity to speak at different events and meet different people, meet so many wonderful Catholics and some Protestants, either Jews, mostly of the elder generation, but also a few who are closer to my age. And they all say the same thing, like, thank you for sharing your story. I didn't know anything about this. I didn't know what was going on. And then I say, well, I didn't know about this whole world of Catholic and Christian support. Thank you. I mean, don't thank me. Thank you. Thank you for coming to the event. Thank you for listening. Thank you for coming after to talk to me. Thank you for giving me your card so we can connect on different things. And yeah, so in a way, it's through Pepperdine that I met Simone, and through Simone that I got open to this amazing world. And I knew, Christians and Catholics tend to support Israel, but I didn't know about the active support to fight anti-Semitism and the active support to promote interreligious dialogue, and to stand up for, your Jewish brothers and sisters. I believe, what was it, like Pope John Paul said something referring to, the Jews, that they're our older brothers. We
Hmm.
have to protect and support them.
That's
And
right.
well, you guys are supporting us. So on behalf of all Jews, thank you.
Well, I think it's our obligation, Catholic, Protestant, as you said, just everybody under the banner of Christendom. If you're reading the Bible, the Tanakh, the Old Testament and the New Testament, and you're reading it in its plain sense and you're not twisting it into crazy theories, it's a mandate to, as Pope John Paul II said, the Jews are our elder brothers and sisters, and that we owe them. We owe the Jewish community so much. And it is our privilege and our obligation to stand with you. And what I'm excited to see, as you're telling us about your experience in DC now, is you went from this really dark period of just keeping your head down and trying to get your degree done and you know share your heart as you felt you could, with the hostage posters and the stickers and whatnot, and dealing with that. I mean, I'm sure your roommates didn't know that you were the ones to put those posters up, but I'm sure they figured you were the one to put those posters up. But now you took that dark experience, you came to DC, which there's a lot of darkness in DC too. I'm sure you're well aware, but you got plugged in to what we do at the Jerusalem Connection and what we encourage and we're trying to do with our Jewish community friends and colleagues and neighbors and the Christian community is bring everybody together. And to see you tell that story of how exciting it is for you to say, oh, I didn't know all these Christians were doing something, right? That's not the first time I heard, a Jewish friend, whether they're Israeli or in Canada or in America, say that. And to me, that's heartbreaking because I've been at this for 20 years and it was my obligation to reach out to my Jewish friends and neighbors and say, look, this is what I do. Just want you to know. Love to talk to you sometime and learn about your experience. So what I think we can all learn from you, Yael, is that we need to understand each other's story, and Christians need to be encouraged to say, no, what else can I do? Am I doing anything now? If not, what can I do? And if I'm already doing stuff, what else can I do? And part of that is engage, not just working in our Christian bubble, our Catholic bubble, our, Kufi bubble, whatever bubble we're in, but to get out and bridge those relationships. And the fact that you're now at a Christian university, but it's coupled with the Institute on Near East Policy, which I'm sure has Jews and non-Jews as part of its scholarship. I am so happy to see that you are encouraged and that you feel a hope for the future and across that spectrum of generations, as you mentioned. And I really feel like you're going to be a great leader going forward as the next generation comes up behind you, Jew, Christian, Catholic, what have you, Muslim even, to be that voice to say, these are the dark things, but here's the light. And the more we shine the light, the more progress we can make. So I just want you to know that you are an encouragement to us. And we really, truly are thankful and appreciative that you came and told us your story, your experiences, and the idea that it's not over yet. Your story is just at the beginning, but it is at a turning point where you see hope, and that's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah, no, it's been quite a journey, and yeah, I mean, I'd say, like you said, your message for, your Christian brothers and sisters is what more can we do? And my message for my Jewish brothers and sisters is, hey, look, the Christians and Catholics are here to help. Go find them. They're waiting because I know a ton of Jewish organizations that are fighting for Israel, and I'm sure you know at least as many Catholic and Christian ones. The problem is bringing them together, or at least having them know that the other is out there. So you
Right.
can, after events together, bring the Jews
Collaborate.
in connection with the Catholics. We do to help. Hey, here's what you could do. And even just beyond that, just knowing that you have these people fighting for you just internally gives you so much strength. Because again, obviously, sadly, there are some Jews, as you heard from my stories, that are not fighting for their own people. But you have so many Jews who are fighting for Israel and to protect Jewish people, the Jewish state. I'll speak for myself here, and the people I've talked to. A lot of Jews don't know that. Again, we know it's kind of amorphous. Yeah, there's Christians that are go Israel, but look at what they're doing on the ground. And yeah, that's why I was excited to come on this podcast. I think it's so important to help each other, to learn from each other. It's not just you guys helping. It's not just us helping you. The support from people who are not Jewish, the support from like our Abrahamic brothers and sisters,
Mhm.
is so important, and it sends a message to the world. Like, it sends a message. The Jews and Christians are standing together. They're standing together to fight anti-Semitism. They're standing together to fight Christian hate. Sure, you have the outliers. The Jews killed Jesus, and everything is the Jews' fault.
Yeah.
We hate the Christians, but that's not the Jews I know. That's not the Christians I know, and that's not the ones who are listening to this podcast, who are watching this podcast. So we're talking to you guys, the people watching here, the people listening here. Just what you're doing is so important, and don't think it's not, because even if you're helping one person, one Jewish person, or one Christian person, I mean, that person can impact and change a whole world. So the work you're doing is very important.
Well, and we're impressed with you, and we are just so encouraged. Your enthusiasm is absolutely contagious. So thank you for that. And we are so thrilled to know you and learn from you. And we're gonna follow you. I'm gonna follow you on LinkedIn and see what you're up to. And as you accomplish things, maybe we could have you back on the program. I know you're local, so we could also meet up in person. But we're gonna pray for you. We're a praying bunch here at the Jerusalem Connection Network, and we are just encouraged now to, like you said, you don't have to change the world. You just have to have a relationship with one Jewish person, colleague, neighbor, acquaintance you met somewhere, and just be an encouragement and figure out what you can do to help. And the other thing is, it's like even these larger organizations, as you mentioned, that we work together, right? It's not just about doing stuff for Jewish people, it's doing stuff with the Jewish people. And that's my big mantra. So I'm so pleased that you joined us today. Have a very blessed rest of your study program. And just thank you again for being with us.
Thank you so much. Have a lovely day.
If you enjoy these conversations, please visit us at www.thejerusalemconnection.us. Find all our podcasts on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast program. Follow us on social media, subscribe, like, and share our content to reach the broadest audience.